Alright YouTube, so we are back of course with some Final Fantasy VII Remake content. And what we have today is something I came across when making the last Final Fantasy VII and X connection video. It's something that I have never seen before. It's something that has existed since the game was initially revealed in 2015. It's from the initial reveal trailer. Now, given how old this is, there's a good chance that some of you out there, maybe even a lot of you out there, have seen or heard about this over the years. But working on that video the other day, this was the first time I've ever seen it. I cannot believe I've gone 5 years without knowing that supposedly Auron from Final Fantasy X is in that first reveal trailer. I'll go ahead and play the clip really quickly. Did you happen to see it? Did you catch it? Probably not, and that's probably why I've missed it for like 5 years. Right before Barrett walks on screen, off to the right, you can see a guy that appears to be Auron leaning up against like a wall or something. Now, obviously, it's kind of hard to see because he's tucked away in the corner back there. It's a very brief scene, and once you like screenshot during a trailer, it's never the best quality, especially once you try to zoom in on that screenshot. But we're going to take a closer look anyway. So once you zoom in, you can see that this guy, this character, whatever, is wearing what appears to be a red coat. That's the main thing that like is very distinct about the character. I can see it much better on my phone than I can on like the PC, on the computer and stuff. He's wearing the jacket or coat or whatever he's wearing has like a collar that goes up halfway through the face, which is very, very distinct when it comes to Auron. Shorter hair, which of course kind of aligns with Auron. And then you have the character having their arms either crossed or that left arm like in the sleeve, or kind of like looks like it's in a sling, much like what Auron does. And obviously we got to do the quick side-by-side comparison. I think this makes it a lot easier to see it, a lot easier to digest that this is definitely Auron or somebody that painfully looks close to Auron. Now, it might look perfectly fine once the video is uploaded. I just don't know how it's going to be once, you put these images into an editing software and then you save it and render it and put it to YouTube, and then you got to watch it over the internet and stuff. I just don't know how it's going to look. My recommendation, of course, I'll have everything linked in the description below, is to save the image to your phone, and you can zoom in and look at it much better that way. And again, for me, the red is very distinct that way. Now, how I came across any of this information at all is when I was making that last theory connection video, I came across this forum post. And it's titled, Proof that Final Fantasy VII is a sequel to Final Fantasy X. And the person says, just saw the Auron cameo. And it kind of hints that Spear was the old Midgar/Gaia, that the far plane was used by Shinra. Now, most of what that person says is actually wrong, because their interpretation is that the events of Final Fantasy VII, Gaia and everything, was in the past and that Spear is the future, and also that it's the same planet, which none of that is true. Because the way the theory goes is Spear and Gaia are completely different planets. They operate relatively the same. They have, the Fireflies in 10 are similar to Mako in 7. The far plane in 10 is similar to like the live stream of the Promised Land in 7. But also the way the connection works is the character of Shinra in 10 too, like his descendants, like 1,000 years in the future, travel like on a spaceship or whatever to the planet of Gaia. Like we know because of that they're literally different planets. All that we talked about multiple times in different videos, so I didn't want to spend too much time on that. But the main thing that stuck out for me from their forum post was the fact that he said, I just saw the Auron cameo, and my first thought was, what the fuck are you talking about, guy? So then I had to look it up, of course, like, what is he talking about? I only know of one Auron when it comes to the Final Fantasy franchise, and that's, Auron from Final Fantasy X, and of course we've talked a lot about the 7 and 10 connection theory. I was like, this is just another, like, piece of evidence if we could track it down and look at it. So I came across this Attack of the Fanboy article from 2015 when the reveal trailer would have happened, came across this Reddit post from 2016, and there's various other forum posts and threads and things talking about it, but the Attack of the Fanboy website was the first thing I came across, and also that Reddit post. Now, if you hop on that Reddit post, for example, there are people that are doubting it, which is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with being skeptical, of course. We don't have 100% confirmation that it is Auron. It just looks very much like him. But one guy said something like, it's interesting, but he's missing the sunglasses. But my thing is, you can't get a good enough look at the character model to tell whether he does or doesn't have sunglasses, but regardless, it's not like the character of Auron has never not worn his glasses. I mean, hell, in the original Final Fantasy X, for example, we see the younger Auron doesn't even wear sunglasses at all. And if we step into crossover territory, which is what this would be if it's Auron in Remake, we've seen Auron in Kingdom Hearts, he doesn't wear glasses either. So it's not like he has to wear them 24/7 all the time. Now, if we go forward with the conversation, like, this is Auron, like, we'll say that for the sake of the conversation, for the sake of the rest of the video, that is Auron right there in the trailer. How did he get to, Remake? How did he get to FF7? How did he get to Gaia? There's ways to explain it within the lore of both games. It's kind of reaching at times, but it is explainable, and some of it's not really reaching. Some of it's actually pretty easy. For starters, Auron is an unsent, which means he's made up of Fireflies, which is the same substance as Mako, right? So in theory, you could contain or bottle up, whatever you want to say, put within a sphere, the Fireflies that make up Auron and just bring them over to Gaia. It's a simple answer. It's kind of reaching, but it is possible within the lore. The other thing is, when it comes to the lore of Final Fantasy X, I don't think there's any limitations on how far somebody can travel from the far plane, right? So the Auron within that trailer could literally just be the regular Auron, and maybe he hopped on a spaceship and went to Gaia. Like, who's to say that he couldn't do that? It also sounds a bit like reaching, but that's how the connection theory works. Shinra's descendants from 10-2 hopped on a spaceship and traveled from Spirit to Gaia. So who's to say that Auron couldn't have been a part of that spaceship? He is an unsent, essentially a ghost. He can literally live forever. The thing is, when it comes to these forum posts and people discussing it a couple years back and kind of denying it or being skeptical, this was also before, well before the game actually came out, and also before that Katase interview came out in 2017 that confirmed the connection. And then, of course, once Remake came out, 3 years after that interview, essentially, we got the connection, the Easter egg within the Shinra Museum of the descendant of Shinra. We also know that Auron was somehow able to, hitch a ride on Sin to go to Dream Xanderkin within Spira, so who knows what the actual limitations are on the unsent. Again, they're like ghosts or spirits or whatever. They're magical in nature. Who's to say they can't travel to other planets and dimensions and other shit like that? Death is kind of weird when it comes to Final Fantasy X. It's very vague, because even a creature like Sin, who is supposed to be eternal, you only defeat him temporarily. Within the story of 10, we defeat him supposedly forever when we, kill Yu Yevon. But by the end of the story we have so far for 10, Final Fantasy X Sin comes back by the end of it all, somehow, even though he's supposed to be gone forever. Even Tidus is brought back multiple times in the 10 story, and he was supposed to be gone in theory kind of forever. After we defeated Sin, the Faith would stop dreaming, so Dream Xanderkin would go away. But Yuna brings him back in 10-2, and then he dies again. Something stupid like a blitzball or something hit his head, kills him. She brings him back again. So it's death is just kind of weird when it comes to the 10 lore and story and Spira, and it's kind of vague, and we don't exactly know how it works. Now, when it comes to Remake and Auron being a part of it, what would or could all this mean? It's hard to even know, because this is probably, if it was him, some sort of cut content, because you got to remember too, when this trailer came out in 2015, the game was different and it was being developed by not Square Enix but CyberConnect 2, right? And when it comes to the actual game of Remake, pretty much none of this trailer, if not all of it, wasn't used, except for maybe this scene where we see the little girl's eyeball, that was a part of the actual game. But the scene itself where we're supposed to see Auron isn't even in the actual game. There's no cutscene of Barrett and Cloud walking through this shady looking slums. None of the slums, nothing from the actual full Remake game look anything like this. These guys, for example, who the hell are they supposed to be? They look like Black Ops Splinter Cell characters or some shit. They got submachine guns or ARs or some shit, and they got a sword on their back. Nobody in Remake looks anything like these guys. So who knows how much of this, for one, with this reveal trailer, how much of this was actually ever supposed to be in the game. Could have just been for the cinematic. But secondly, how much of it, if it was supposed to be in the game, is actually cut content. So, even if this is supposed to be Auron, who knows if he was ever supposed to be in the actual game. It could have just been a cute little Easter egg for the reveal trailer. But maybe in the earlier days of the game, maybe they had different ideas for Remake, maybe they're going to lean a little more heavy into the 10 connection, and Auron could have been an NPC, a character we actually just kind of sitting there in the background of the slums that looks a lot like Auron. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. Could have been a character we actually interacted with and talked to and got side quests from. Who knows, man? Right now, if I could ask the devs one question in regards to Remake Part 1, obviously if I could ask them any question, it'd be something about Part 2. But if I could ask them one question about Part 1, this is the one I'd ask right now. This is what's on my mind. I would like to ask, probably Nojima, since he's the scenario writer, I'd be like, dude, is that Auron in the trailer? I'd like to get his answer. Anyways, what it is, that's pretty much the video. This is longer, much longer than I thought it was going to be. I didn't expect to be talking for 8 or 9 minutes at this point. But this is something that it just surprised me. It's something exciting, something worth talking about. It's something that has existed for 5 years now that I have not known about this game. And I've been talking about this game since the reveal. And when it comes to something like this, it makes you wonder, okay, this is just the reveal trailer, and that's most likely 80-90% probably Auron. It makes you wonder when it comes to the full game, how much other hidden stuff there could be. It makes you wonder how much small or big stuff, maybe even full-on character models of characters from 10 that could be there somewhere in the background of Remake that people just haven't noticed yet. Anyways, I could probably keep going, man. This stuff's a little bit exciting to talk about. I love learning new stuff about Remake. What do you think this is? Okay, going back to the trailer from 2015, do you think it was just a subtle little Easter egg for the fans? Is it not even Auron, but maybe just a character that's supposed to be like Auron, just kind of a nudge and a nod to the connection theory back then in 2015? Or do you think it was supposed to be the actual Auron, and maybe they're going to go further into the 10 connection? I definitely want to know your guys' thoughts about this, since we talk about the 7 and 10 connection theory quite often. And again, I recommend downloading the actual picture onto your phone. Maybe you can get a better look at it. Anyways, my dudes, that is the video. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you guys already want to see more Final Fantasy VII and 10 connection theories. Turn on my notifications. Follow me on Twitter at @dashingdavid. And my Discord. Links to my social networks are in the description. And in the outro. Later, guys.
Used to care what people thought, but now I care more, and nobody out here's got it figured out. So therefore I've lost all hope of a happy ending, depending on whether or not it's worth it. get so insecure, no one's perfect. We spend it with no shame, we blow that. Like Coltrane, we in here. Like Logain or leave it. Like Cobain.